The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be happy. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to false views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world.
Thank you. Bhante, over to you.
Okay, so my subject for tonight is metta. So it's very appropriate that we all chanted the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And in practicing metta, there are three levels. One is a verbal think, and then the next level, it goes from the verbal that you say, as we just did, to the thinking, and then ultimately to the goal is feeling. And there are deeper levels of the feeling, going from our present feeling that we can talk about and even gesture towards the heart, and then the deeper feelings that we attain in jhana. Now, what we're aiming at is feeling. And if you remember my famous simile about the pump, the old iron pump, what we're aiming for is the feeling. And the way that we get there, we don't start out with this wonderful feeling of metta, generally speaking, unless we're certain individuals like Ajahn Brahm or Bhante Ji or Ajahn Chachai, some of the metta teachers. But at any rate, we're starting out with verbal, and so you'll find that I'm referring to a number of scripts that are in these books. And forgive me for taking and reading scripts again, but I find these the most helpful, and they're from Bhante Ji's book, mainly mindfulness in plain English. So if you want to refer to these yourself, you can get them in that book, or you can write your own scripts. And from verbal, you go to thinking about these things in your meditations. You can start out with the verbal before your meditation, and I'll read one, short one for that, and then you go into your own thinking until it leads you into a feeling, hopefully. And sometimes it takes quite a long time. There was Bhante Ji tells a story about giving a retreat somewhere, I think it was Poland, somewhere in the east there. And a woman called him up before he got there. I think he was still in Europe or someplace. And she said, oh, Bhante, she had been in retreats before. And she said, Bhante, I want to know what is in your retreat. What do you cover? Do you cover metta? And he said, oh, yes, we thoroughly cover metta. That's one of the most important. And she said, well, I hate metta. And, he was familiar with this problem because many people have trouble with metta. And he said, well, you come and maybe we can change that feeling. And he convinced her. He's very smooth, and he convinced her to come. And I think she did come, and she did, her attitude towards metta did improve. Because it's not so easy for some people. It was difficult for me. I remember when I first went to a metta retreat, and it was not so easy, I thought. And it's hard, in particular, to start with yourself, and that's why you start with yourself. You always start with yourself, because if you want to radiate metta to the whole world, you have to start with one person, and that's you. Everybody has to start with themselves. This is not selfish. It's simply a problem in how to do it. You have to start with yourself and have loving kindness, or loving kindness for yourself before you radiate it or attempt to radiate it to anyone else. And so, as I say, I'll be referring to a number of scripts. And metta, let me put in an ad for metta has the potential to carry you into the jhana realm, to the first jhana and onwards to the other three. And it is very close to the feelings predominant in the first jhana and the others, and is a vehicle to reach them. It's a vehicle to reach them. And Bhante Ajahn Brahm talks about in his book something Bliss and Beyond. I forgot what the first part is. Something Bliss and Beyond. He talks about the nimitta, the golden nimitta. The nimitta is a mental sign, and the golden nimitta is the nimitta of metta. And by meditating on that golden sign, it is a vehicle that takes you into the first jhana. Beautiful. So, now before we get to these scripts, I wanted to promote jhana. Why are we doing jhana in the first place? And I'll tell you some stories that I can remember. One is about Sincha. Sincha was actually a prostitute in the time of the Buddha. And the enemies of the Buddha, the rivals, bribed her to go in and embarrass the Buddha in front of all of the gathering people and who he was giving a talk to at one time. And she did. What she did was tie a bundle of sticks or twigs under her dress, her rough dress, so it looked like she was pregnant. And she did. She went in the middle of his talk And she said, "Oh, you scoundrel, you pretend to be a great saint. And here, look at the state you've got me into now." And all the people were aghast. And the Buddha it didn't faze the Buddha at all. He simply looked at her and smiled and sent metta to her. And he said, "Sister, only two people know the truth of what happened between us, you and I." And she was so surprised and probably felt the effects of his metta because it radiated out so powerfully that she turned and walked away. But she was so upset that she tripped over a stick or something, and all the twigs and so forth fell out of her dress. And the people saw what she had been doing, and some of the people wanted to beat her. And the Buddha said, no, the way to beat her, the way to teach her is through teaching her Dhamma, the Dhamma. And so they didn't beat her, and he taught her the Dhamma, and her mind changed in a revolution, and she became a very calm and peaceful person after that. So that's one story about the power of metta to overcome your enemies and to see how you would not be afflicted by problems in the world. That's one example. And now the next one is even more dramatic than that. Devadatta was the cousin of the Buddha, and Devadatta was a rival and wanted to take over the whole Sangha from the Buddha. And so he had failed on a number of occasions. And this time he thought, now I'll get him. And he got a very well-known and powerful bull elephant and got him drunk on wine or whatever intoxicant they had there. And as the Buddha was going down a street of a certain town, possibly Rajagaha, it was a street that had narrow streets and buildings on either side, so that the elephant running down this street couldn't go out through another street very easily. And so he set the elephant to attack the Buddha. And Ananda was walking with the Buddha and saw the elephant coming and stood in front of the Buddha as if he could do anything to stop it. And the Buddha said, "Step aside, sir." And he asked him to move, and the Buddha walked up and held his hand out to the elephant and radiated metta. And the elephant stopped, and you can imagine this huge bull elephant with his ears out and his trunk up, all ready to smash the Buddha. And he slowly brought his trunk down, and you can imagine him kneeling down and in front of the Buddha. So Devadatta failed again. Now another, I'm looking for the clock, and it's 17. Another very practical one is that how do you deal with difficult people? And there's the famous simile of the filthy rag. You may have all heard this before, but this is one of my favorite ones from the very beginning of when I was a monk. Let's say a monk is walking along the bank of a river or someplace, and he sees this filthy rag. And at first he turns aside, and then he thinks, well, maybe I can do something with this rag. It's so filthy, who can tell what it's like? So he picks it up with his toes, and he carries it very gingerly to his kuti, which is by the water. And then he starts cleaning it, washing it. And he washes it over and over until he sees that it's a very valuable piece of cloth, actually. Well, cloth being material like that being very expensive in those days. And he sees that what he can do with it, he might make a doormat out of it, he might make a piece of robe out of it, There's a number of uses for it. And in the same way, if we have enemies or problems with people in the world, we look to see what good thing there is about them. Possibly they can help us in some way, or possibly we can help them in some way. And we instead of just discarding them and going away, we wash our own mind of our dislike of them and radiate loving kindness to them until possibly they're overcome with that loving kindness and their attitude changes. And Bhante Ji tells a story about he used to take walks outside Bhavana, quite long walks, and he saw somebody driving past. He'd seen this truck before, and it was driven by an older man, and he waved, and the older man just turned away and didn't look at him and just drove past. And so Bhante Ji just shrugged his shoulders and walked on, and then the next day it happened again. Now this went on for quite a long time, and Bhante Ji didn't give up. He waved every time the man went by in his truck, because he lived in that neighborhood, of course. And finally the man lifted up one finger, and Bhante Ji just beamed with happiness that he had got the man to hold up one finger. So the story goes on that gradually, and this was over months, this man started bringing up more than one finger. And finally it was a whole hand. And then he did wave at Bhante Ji, and so he had gone that far. And one time Bhante Ji saw the truck by the side of the road, and the man was smoking a cigarette or something, and he went up to him and they discussed the weather, and then Bhante Ji got out of him his story, and the story was that this man had been in a terrible accident. A tree had fallen on the trunk and had broken many of the limbs of the man, and he could barely do anything. How he drove the truck, I don't know, but he had just begun to recover when Bhante first passed him, and that's why he didn't lift his finger. He really couldn't. And it's wonderful to think that the man did recover. And one time, Bhante couldn't go out for his walk as usual, and for a couple of days, I don't know why, maybe he was on a trip or something, but the man drove in one day to see where Bhante was and was concerned that he was ill or something. So this man at the beginning had no anger towards Bhante, but he was probably filled with shame and couldn't look at Bhante, who was waving at him, because he couldn't lift his own finger. So this is part of the power of metta. There is no magical power in this. It's persistence. Now, I want to read in 183. Excuse me for my taking time to look for these. This is one that Bhante Ji has written. Now, as he says in the book, that he's written these scripts, and he always starts out, especially in his metta retreats, with these stories, and sometimes he goes all the way through the meditation reading these. It's very unusual to be in one, but you see the effect is that people come out beaming and happy and smiling from these meditations. And so he says, at the beginning of meditation sessions, say the following, and this is any session. He recommends say the following sentences to yourself. And again, really feel the intention. May my mind be filled with thoughts of loving friendliness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. May I be generous. May I be gentle. May I be relaxed. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy. May my heart become soft. May my words be pleasing to others. May my actions be kind. May all that I see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think help me to cultivate loving friendliness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. And we'll talk about those four at the end of this session. May all of these experiences help me to cultivate thoughts of generosity and gentleness. May they all help me to relax. May they inspire friendly behavior. May these experiences be a source of peace and happiness. May they help me be free from fear, tension, anxiety, worry, and restlessness. No matter where I go in the world, in any direction, may I greet people with happiness, peace, and friendliness. May I be protected in all directions from greed, anger, aversion, hatred, jealousy, and fear. So he's recommending that people actually start every meditation session, unless they're very brief, with these words to get your mind in the right state and a receptive, calm, peaceful, relaxed state. This is part of relax to the max. Relaxing your mind, relaxing with metta. Now, very close to starting, and what I want to do is use the traditional method of. Excuse me while I find this. 91. The traditional one traditional way of doing it is by starting out with yourself, meditating, sending metta to yourself, and then to a mentor, a teacher, someone you revere, maybe somebody you don't even know, but you revere greatly. And then after that, a good friend. And after that, someone you don't really know that well and don't have any particular feelings one way or the other about, a neutral person, you might say. And then after that, the most difficult, the hostile person, the enemy, it goes by different names. The enemy, and this is crucial to attaining jhana and so on, is to be able to generate metta to the enemy, somebody you really don't like. And then after that, we add on another one, which is all beings. All beings in the world is sort of an add-on. And so what I'm going to do, yes, it's close enough. I'm going to read a bit. I'm going to read a bit of a script at the very beginning of, there are 5 or 6 minute segments adding up to 30. And I'll go through, should be 6 of these. And at the very beginning, and that will be the time to switch over if you want to do it this way. If you don't want to do it this way, just keep on meditating whatever way you want. But I will be, does everyone understand? I will start out, may I be well, happy and peaceful, and la la la, so on. And then you continue meditating on the self, on you, each of you. And then it goes to my teachers. This is following what I just read. And then my friends, all persons who are strangers, that would be the neutral, and then 5 is my enemies, and then 6 is may all living beings. I hope everyone follows what I'm saying, so we can start. Yeah, that's we're just about right on time there. That's how I figure it. And if we run over slightly, then I don't think it will matter too much. So, can we start the half-hour meditation session now?
Most certainly, Bhante.
All right, then we'll start. Everybody get into their mode of meditation. And this is the beginning of a meditation session. And this is really part of it. So meditate on these thoughts, and then let the thoughts penetrate into you, and continue meditating, in this case, on the self, on you yourself, until I stop and switch persons. May I be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always meet with success. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May my parents be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. And we'll stop there, and you continue with radiating metta to yourself, loving kindness to yourself. Now we will turn to spreading metta to our mentors, our teachers. May my teachers be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And so we continue to spread metta to our mentors or mentor. Now we'll turn to a good friend. May my friend be well, happy, and peaceful. You can use their name. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. So we continue with one or more of our really good friends, and we spread metta to them, radiating metta to them. Now we'll switch to a neutral person. I'm changing the verbiage a little bit here. May such and such a person who I have no particular feelings for one way or the other be happy, well, and peaceful. May no harm come to him or them. May no difficulties come to him or her. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with spiritual success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And so we will continue with one or more neutral people. And now we'll turn to I'll call them the difficult person, otherwise known as our enemy. May any difficult person in our lives be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with spiritual success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And so continue as best we can with that difficult person, the adversary. And now finally we will turn to all living beings. May all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. May they always meet with spiritual success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And so continue with all living beings. And may all living beings in whatever form they are in. Be well, happy, and peaceful, omitting none. And so now we will first of all, we will turn to you and see if you have any questions so far. Is there anything that is unclear? You want a little bit of explanation on, or complaints? Whatever you want to say. Any opinions?
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, Maureen, would you like to unmute and speak? And Helen? You need to unmute yourself, Maureen. Could you unmute?
I'd just like to say thank you very much to Bhante. I've found that meditation very helpful. But I would wondering if you would mind explaining from a Buddhist perspective what spiritual success means to you. I know that's a difficult one, but if you could just perhaps briefly
What spiritual success could only mean to me is nibbana. And that is the ultimate, from which we are not reborn.
Thank you.
Is that good? Okay. Good. Is that good enough?
Oh, no, it's, I wouldn't put a judgment on it. It's just because I knew it was a difficult question.
Well,
but I just wanted clarification.
That's the Buddha. That's the Buddha's answer. That's what the Buddha says, and I'm taking his word for it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that question. Okay, now what? Any more questions?
Yes, would anyone else like to unmute and ask a question or make a comment about the meditation or their own practice in Buddhism?
Chris, can I ask? I can't find my hand.
Oh, well, you don't need
It's
to
Nikki,
go ahead.
sorry. I can't find my
You're
hand.
most welcome.
Thank you.
You'd just like to go ahead. Hands are on questions, and sometimes if you're using a phone, they can be difficult
There
to
they
find.
are.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Please go ahead.
Oh, there's a thumbs up. Anyway, thank you. I thank you for the meditation. I couldn't do it because I find metta. And I've been trying to practice metta meditation for probably about 6 years, and I find it so boring. Any kind of metta, I understand the philosophy behind it and why it's good, but if I sit down and try and practice the metta words, I have no feelings of metta and I get bored.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so then I get really distracted.
Yes, I can see the problem in that, and especially if you've spent 6 years trying to do metta without success. All I can say is I can only repeat the simile which you've probably heard before about the pump, that it doesn't matter how long it takes to pump on that iron pump. Eventually, there is water there. I want to assure you, there's water down there. There is loving kindness down in you. It's just a matter of getting the right formula, getting the right script, getting the right frame of mind. Somehow, maybe you lack confidence that you can have this feeling in you, or you don't feel that you deserve it yet. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe you feel you don't deserve it and you won't look at it. You won't look at it. I can't. I don't know. I don't know you, so...
Well, I don't know. I have loving kindness to living beings outside of meditation. It's like I can respond to situations and people, particularly animals. I have the metta, but I don't... If I sit down there, I can't cultivate it.
Yeah, that's... Yes, that's Ajahn Brahm's way of starting metta, as a matter of fact, is picking out something that you can... because people have difficulties, picking out something like a kitten or a puppy, something that you can respond to and have metta for, really have metta, or a baby for one. Most people have some kind of feeling for a baby. Some don't, they just see them as squalling nuisances. But so in that way, but Ajahn Brahm says it was a person who didn't have any feeling for babies, puppies, kittens, or animals, but she was a plant lover, and he told her, well, then send metta to one of your plants. And it worked. She was able to respond and project metta to one of her plants, she said. That's what he says in his book, Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond, I believe. Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond.
I've heard him say that, yeah. So if I should I mute people then while they're trying to lead the metta and just
say that again.
My own version in?
I'm not following you. What did you say?
Well, when I'm listening to people like yourself, and I hope you don't offend, but I don't mean this offensively. Should I mute you then? So I'm not hearing your words, as in, shall I replace that with the thing?
If there's one, yes, definitely. I would. These are only example scripts, and I wanted to mention again that you write your own script, unless you have these, and these are in Bhante Ji's book, Mindfulness in Plain English. But the thing is, you develop your own scripts that work for you. These are only examples. So yes, definitely, you do what works for you. Okay, and not necessarily what I'm saying.
Thank you, Bhante.
The thing is to get the water from the pump, whatever way it takes, whether you use your left hand, your right hand. Okay? Anybody?
Yeah.
All right?
Thank you.
And I hope it works for you. It will. It's there. The water is there for everyone. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bhante, and thank you, Nikki. Also, we did receive a message in the chat about karuna and mudita and upeksha.
Oh.
As also being in line with
Yes.
meditation.
That's my next subject.
These three.
That's my next subject. And so,
excellent. Perfect.
and so I'll go on to it. These are the 4 sublime states. Very important to know for your background. Metta, karuna, mudita, and equanimity, or upekkha. In Pali, it's metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha. And these are called the 4 sublime states. And each one finds its home in one of the 4 jhanas, metta being the first, although metta goes all the way through. And actually, upekkha, which is equanimity, goes part of the way through the jhanas too. So what we want to talk about here is what is the difference between them? What is that all about? These are sublime states, deep sublime states, as deep as metta. And if we we start with the idea of parenthood. Let's start with the mother. You start with a mother with a new baby. This is metta. I'm talking about metta now in this simile. And the mother feels nothing. When she finds out that she's going to have a baby, she feels just absolute love, tremendous joy for this baby, and wishes, of course, the best for it. And she finds her feelings for the child are limitless and don't depend on any actions or behavior of the child. She has unlimited love for a being that gives nothing back to her. Well, it gives back to her something, but in a sense. But it doesn't matter how messy the baby is or how much it cries and so on. You know what I'm talking about. That's metta. So you have metta for people regardless of how they act to you, like what I was saying about Bhante Ji and the man who couldn't move his finger. Bhante Ji continued to have metta for him no matter what. Or you could say that dirty rag, you just keep cleaning it, until, voila, there it is. All right, that's metta. That's metta. It's just total, complete love without expecting anything in return. Metta. And that's what metta is. So you wouldn't expect anything particular from a kitten or a puppy, for instance. Okay, the next one is karuna, which is compassion. Okay, karuna, a compassion. This is a mental thing. We don't necessarily do anything in the physical world like go and run and pick somebody up. I mean, we might, but compassion exists in our heart, mind. Compassion, if we have a child and it's growing up and it falls down and skins its knee, we feel compassion. The parents feel compassion for it, and they want the hurt to end for the child so the child feels good and happy again, so the child doesn't suffer. This is this wish. This is compassion in ourselves. We may have compassion for people all the way around on the other side of the earth, and we hear about them in the news, and we have compassion for them, for their suffering, whatever it is. That's compassion, karuna. And that's number 2, the second jhana. Although it doesn't really matter at this stage what jhana it is. And the next one, mudita. I didn't write it in. Mudito. That is a little difficult to explain because it means appreciative joy. Now, what does that mean? It means, say you have a child and it goes to school and it has all sorts of good things happen to it, successful things. It becomes the leader of the football team, and it gets an A on its tests and an A on its report card or whatever. And it's doing well, and it's popular, and it's studying hard, and it follows Buddhism, and or something like that. And we have this inner. We feel so happy for that child, not because of us, not because it reflects on us, but because we know how it felt when we were children, and we have this feeling. Now, expand that feeling to other people, and we can have mudita for them, for whatever. And what this allows is you to be constantly joyous, because whatever joy or happiness you see in other people because of some success they've had, you can feel joyous too. This is not a physical jumping up and down. It doesn't mean you go and slap them on the back and say, "Oh, well done, bloke," or something like that. That isn't isn't interior, it's an interior thing for you to feel this joy that they must feel. And this is almost esoteric, this joy. It's something in you, and you can feel it any time that you hear or feel something, especially people around you that you're near to, when they have something wonderful happen to them, a birth of a new baby, an A on a report card, a new job, a raise, and so on. As you can expand this. Whatever, this is mudita. This is, it's called sympathetic joy or appreciative joy. All right, and then the last one here is equanimity, upekkha. Now, upekkha often, or equanimity, gets mixed up with indifference. A lot of people can't understand, I've heard this before, that, what do we tell people, students, who think that equanimity means indifference to people in war and so on? It doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean indifference. It means, going back to the simile of the parents, it means that, say the child has grown up and has jobs, and a marriage, children, has gone through, and has reached a point, whatever point, where you know that that child is beyond your control and your guidance and your steering. That child has, you have equanimity for whatever happens. You wish them the absolute best, of course. You still have metta. Metta hasn't gone. Metta hasn't gone away, and neither has mudita and compassion. They're all still there, but you know that you have a balanced mind, and you know that you can't do anything more for them directly. You can't interfere with the progress of their life. And it's the same for people in war. There's nothing that you can really do on some war that's taking place halfway around the world, but you can feel an equanimity about it. You can feel a boundless open heart without even you have compassion, not necessarily, but you know that it's hard to explain. Equality, equanimity, it means you're balanced. Whatever happens, whether it's good, whether we call it good or bad, whatever happens, you maintain this balance, and that's the fourth jhana. That's the fourth jhana. Whatever it sees, something Ajahn Brahm told me once was, upekkha is there at the end. That's of the factors for the bojjhanga, the factors for enlightenment. Upekkha is there at the end to protect you from fear. So that if you see things that are fearsome, the upekkha is there to protect you. Now, one goal of meditation, or the goal, is what Bhante Ji says. The goal of meditation is the cultivation of these four sublime states. So, and the way to do that is to practice metta. We start at the beginning and we practice metta. From metta we can go on and we can still practice compassion. We can do meditations for compassion the same way as metta. And you can do compassion, you can do sympathetic joy. That's a good time. You spring into sympathetic joy meditation when you see something good happen to a friend or somebody who isn't a friend. And then equanimity, you see something that you know you can't really affect except by upekkha. And maybe some people can affect it. So, now, are there any questions?
Yes, thank you for that answer, firstly, Bhante. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else? Yes, Gita.
Bhante,
Yes, go ahead.
okay. I can relate to the previous person's comment about Metta being very, she was getting bored when these scripts were read out and so on. And I also thought back to your very beginning statement that Metta can be at different levels. It can be words, it's at a very superficial level. It can be thinking more about it, and then the actual feeling within of this experience. And I'm just thinking what she was describing was metta in action, in the sense that when she is with puppy or with people, there is a genuine feeling of goodwill, of non-harm. So it's as if that is one way in which we can get in touch with this goodwill, the universal goodwill. And so I used to find metta was a very difficult subject for myself, and I put it down to there are descriptions that some people are more rooted by greed, some by anger, some by delusion. So I thought, right, I know where I fit in, it's anger. So this is where the character predispositions, I thought, was obstructing my development of metta, because I really could not sit through times when people talk about metta, because the words are just words, and I think this is so mechanical. It's like feeling hypocritical, just sitting there with that. But I want to share with this other lady that I kind of let it go in a sense, as okay, this is how it is with me. And 40 years ago, one monk said to me that some of my agitation and why I couldn't sit in group meditation, he said, look, you don't have to sit in the group, go outside, take a cushion and meditate. But one day, when you have developed metta, this will not be a problem for you. So that was 40 years ago I was told about this. Now it's taken me that length of time to actually start to feel a need to do this metta practice. And so now it's starting to shift the practice, because something said within me, this has to be cultivated. The mind has to develop this root of non-ill will. It's some sort of a feeling from within that it needs to be addressed, and to discover this precious quality that the Buddha describes as this universal friendliness. And the other obstruction I had with metta was people talking about this, as a mother loves her only child, this, at the risk of her own life. I used to find that a bit unrealistic, that we would be able to feel that kind of love. And in any case, I felt that the love that the Buddha was talking about was not that kind of specific protective love that is felt for a one being who is one's child. This is about a love that, a goodwill,
that's right,
that goes beyond all of that and doesn't get chopped up with split. So the word goodwill actually helped me as, hey, I can do goodwill, yes, this is within my reach. Whereas this other ideal was just, whoa, not for me, thank you, you know. So I'm just sharing the struggles that I have had in the last 40 years with this metta practice.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And you raise a good point, which is a problem with the simile in the parents, is that metta is not particular to your friendships or your siblings or your children. It isn't about love of children, really. I have to say, it's not about love of particular people. It's about, on the highest level, it's about love as a pure thing that is radiated out. And not necessarily to this person because you like them better, or another person. Does that make sense? I hope so, because that's important to know, and they tell you that. I should have mentioned that at the very beginning. It's non-personal in a sense, impersonal love, pure impersonal metta. Not the kind of feeling.
A translation by Thanissaro Bhikkhu, the American monk,
Yeah.
who actually says, he challenges this metaphor. He says it's being misinterpreted.
Well, to that extent.
The Buddha is saying that the mother, as a mother, protects her only child. He says he's talking about metta itself. One needs to protect that quality.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That you project it to other beings, or that other beings are regarded in that way. But the quality of metta itself, one must protect and develop. And so when I was reading his take on it, it sort of made a lot more sense as a more universal quality.
I've never heard that before, but it's very interesting. It's interesting. I don't know what to say about it.
Yes,
if you find that something that helps, that's good. I don't know exactly. That's an interesting take on it. Thank you. Well, we're getting later.
Bhante. Thank you very much, Gita, and thank you, Bhante. Interesting, most interesting. Yes, Bhante, would you like to maybe bring us to a close this evening and offer us a blessing? Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. This is the one that I did before, and I'll do it in Pali.
That would be wonderful.
And then I'll explain it in English to the best of my ability. It's a very simple one. Sabe Buddha bala pata pachekanang chayang balang arhatanang tatejana rakang bandami sabaso. By all the power of the Buddhas, of all the Buddhas, of the Pacheka Buddhas, the secret Buddhas, and all of the Arahats, I secure safety for you. I secure safety for you in all ways. That's it.
Thank you, Bhante, and thank you for a most interesting evening again this evening.
Thank you. Enjoyed it very much.
We did too.
I learned something new tonight. A few new things, actually. Yeah. Well, I won't be seeing you for about 4 months, and I hope that you all can establish a metta practice at home. Do a little bit of metta every day. I hope you can do that. It will change your life.